I'm Laura Paparo. I have a publishing company, Owl Publishing, in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. And we have been publishing books since 2016. We've been in existence since 2015. And so we have our website also, and you can see my email address is here. My website is owlpublishinghouse.com. And you can take a look at some of the books that we have. Some of the website is right now under construction. I just I did a little bit of stuff with it. Most of the website I did myself because I just like figure out how to do things. But I'm always hoping and open to having people who are illustrators, graphic designers, book designers. One of the things that was really challenging for me when I first started kind of doing all of this, the most challenging thing for me was not designing the books, like the interiors. It was the covers. The covers were literally the death of me. Not because of the design part, but because you have to be very particular with like the dimensions and like what goes where and, making sure that they're the right size. I don't know what it was. I had a block and I couldn't figure it out for like 2 months. I figured it out. But I definitely had to bring on some expertise to be able to do this. But in the process, I maintain 3 websites. We publish, last year we published about 15 books, maybe less. It had to be 15 books last year. We are kind of hoping to publish this year. We were hoping to publish at least 15, if not more this year, but it might be a little bit less just given, things are kind of slowing right now just in terms of people's productivity. And it might all of a sudden, maybe everybody's writing right now, and then it's all going to like explode in, July when everyone's like, I've been sitting here writing books for, months and months. So you never know. But yeah, all of our books are print on demand. Everything is available via Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We do hardcover, softcover, and ebooks. So there you go.
So I guess my question, and this is probably Emma's question too. So we're both illustration majors. We're both in class together. But my question, I guess, is, how do you go about getting the illustrators? Is that something where like the authors choose which illustrators they want? Do you have a process for how, people can submit their work, I guess, given work so that they can work on the books, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we have a website. On our website, we do have a submission for book proposals. I don't have something for illustrators to submit to like be on our like list. That's something that I should probably consider adding just so that we can have like a repository. Generally, if somebody wants an illustrator, I kind of, have to go through people who've illustrated before, or, I'll often say to them, like, do you know anybody who you want to work with? And if they don't, then I'll usually reach out to some of the people who maybe have illustrated for me before, or whatnot. I do have this one person. This was the last book I didn't show you, but this was illustrated by Diana Nemenstu, and she actually lives in Romania. This is my book, and she and I went back and forth on, this is so cool, look at that. We went back and forth on like Messenger and email to put this together. So, when I need somebody, often I'll kind of reach into the people who have worked for me before. But I think it would definitely be great. I don't often get I get a lot of emails from authors. I don't get a lot of emails from illustrators. Like, hey, I'm an illustrator. I'm looking for new work. Like, here's what, a sample. And I would love to get more of that. And then sometimes, we'll just like put some books together and do some cool things just because, this book, How the Tree Became Happy, this started as like a conversation at a school presentation that one of my other authors went to. So it's just a cool thing. It's a neat way that it happens. But what I would definitely say, and one of the things I'm trying to do as I'm getting more involved, is to kind of build up capacity to do more and to have more resources. So, for sure, email me, I'll I don't know if you have anything uploaded, but I know there are some folders where I can take a look at people's, portfolios. And, it's definitely great to have an online portfolio where you can just send a link, and instead of sending like files and files and files, better to like upload them, have them in a place, and then send me a link and be like, here's a link to my, digital portfolio. And then I can just be like, oh, click, Yeah.
Should we like put our website links in like the Zoom chat thing?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I've written down, so Sarah was correct in that she asked one of my questions. So you said that you print your books on demand. Mm-hmm. So does that mean it's through online purchasing only?
Generally, yeah. Generally, we do online purchasing as the main way that our books are purchased. They're all available on Amazon. They're all available through like Barnes & Noble. We make Kindle versions. They're in the Apple Store, at least a few of them. I'm still not quite sure how the Apple Store decides, like the iBooks, like which book they're going to choose. There are algorithms I cannot figure out. But all of our books are available on all of those venues. So when, and I do have an online store where people can purchase them directly from me online, but that takes like more manpower and it's not worth it for me to be dealing with that. So I usually only do author orders and bulk orders through that. Otherwise, I would prefer that people go straight to Amazon, and then it's just a lot less logistics that I have to deal with. We do have some in-person events that we run. So we have last year in March, we had an author expo down at Bert's Bottle Shop in Millersville. And so they're a great partner, and they were able to give us their whole outdoor patio space, and we just kind of had tables. Each author had like half a table. They brought some books. I brought 10 copies of each book, and then if they wanted more, they could like just get as many as they wanted. And then generally, I recommend that when a book is released, that authors and illustrators have a like an event. I don't plan it or host it because I'm not a party planner. If I wanted to do that, that would be my job, but I'm not. But I do recommend that people do that as well. And I'll put together some promotional materials and I'll promote them on social media and do what I can. I really rely a lot for my graphic design stuff. I use Canva a lot. And Canva that's my jam. I love it.
Everybody needs to.
Yeah, it's really, and honestly, these days, if you don't have good graphics, like no one's going to take a look at you because everybody can do good graphics because of things like Canva. So if you don't kind of put your best foot forward in that way. So I've been able to muddle through not having a full-time graphics person because I just figure it out. Sometimes I use Pages, sometimes I use InDesign, sometimes I use Microsoft Word. I mean, I use whatever I can, but Canva is that's my friend. We are BFFs. So what other questions do you have?
So many. You said that you do Kindle, so there are like ebook formats as well.
Yeah.
So for the illustrators, you said that usually, so they're all freelance. So like one artist can do like multiple books. It's not like
so many books.
Okay.
All of the books, yes. And these Mr. Business books, where we did 7 of these last year, Salam did all of those. Okay. So yes, you can. Yes. And that's really a great way for illustrators to kind of get into their own kind of thing, their own rhythm, and kind of figure out what their style is, and kind of do different things. A great illustrator who I haven't had the privilege to work with directly, but who I follow him on social media. His name is Russ Cox, and he COX. And he lives in Vermont or Maine or somewhere like that. And he's been hosting a bunch of these like doodle together Friday mornings, which is really neat. And so he has a really unique style. And if you take a look at his work, like you'll see it, it's all like rough and it's kind of like, the expressions. And I feel like, he's illustrated a number of books. And when you look at a book that has been illustrated by him, like, it, because that's just his style. Right. So, it takes a little while to develop that, but the more books you illustrate, the more you develop your style. And I mean, I'd love to be the vehicle by which an illustrator develops their style. I mean, that's really my goal is really to empower people, to empower authors and illustrators. We don't publish books, necessarily in the same volume that like some other companies do. And that's also because we're just a small company. It really, at the end of the day, it's like me and like a friend of mine who works with me on the bilingual book and print on PCA&D. And I have a couple of other people who I pull in as needed. But it really is a small outfit. And I have a full-time job somewhere else. So I do this kind of, for fun and because I love it. And I would say if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would like publish books all the time, every day, forever and ever and ever in my life, because it's so much fun. But it doesn't pay all the bills either. A lot of times authors will publish something and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to sell like thousands of copies like immediately. It's just not reality. That's just not how it works. And if it did, then like, yay, but I'm open to it. I'd love to like work with someone who's going to make that happen and help me make that happen with them and have like the passion to do it. But it takes a really long time to get there, and to have that be like the thing that pays your bills. It does not happen overnight. And so it doesn't happen with your first book usually, unless you're J.K. Rowling, I don't know. But usually it's just not, it takes a little bit of time to kind of make that happen. But, we definitely are happy to kind of work together and see what we can accomplish.
I had a question because you were talking about that wonderful Mr. Business series. I'm a children's book illustrator. So like one of the biggest things is like the turnaround. So how long would this illustrator hypothetically have per book? So is there like a typical turnaround that you practice, or is it kind of just like a whatever?
Whatever. It's not really whatever. I mean, I have goals.
Right. Absolutely.
I will say for this book, for this series, so BK is the author. He was like, he is a force. So he is, I mean, like you get on the phone and he's like, and this and this and this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and here, how would you like to do this memoir? And I'd like to do, and like, I'm just here. I'm just getting on the ride. I'm just here for the ride. So with this book, Salam we put out one a month, and he did not start working on one until he was done with the other. So the first one came out in May. I was given the illustrations in April, which for me was like turnaround time is bonkers. So yeah. I just kind of like did it. We had to rewrite the books too, because like I just did. It was so funny. Once it was all kind of like put together with the illustrations and the words, whatever BK saw first, he's like, that's it. That's perfect. That's great. I could put like mumbo jumbo in there and he'd be like, yep, that's it. This is it. So we just he's like real fast, and I was just, keeping up. And Salam had about a month. So if he gave me the first one in April, I needed the next one in May, because the next one coming out came in June. Right. So then we just, and sometimes it was like 5 weeks, and sometimes it was like there was 2 that kind of like were tandem happening, but he just kind of made it happen. And so I think that part of it was because they had a close working relationship from other things. I didn't find Salam, BK did. And so they were able to kind of, BK was able to make demands of Salam that I was not necessarily. I will say for this book, this took like months to get the illustrations. And then when I would put them together, one of the things, she did each one individually, and she would kind of like Emily would put the two illustrations together. And she would have them kind of, she'd work on them each individually, and then she'd like put them together, but they weren't attached to each other. And so then what ended up happening was some of like these mountains, let's see in here, these mountains like didn't find each other. So we had to redraw some of these illustrations. Additionally, I'll show you another area where we had to kind of work on it, was this page here.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So somehow what ended up happening, and this is normal. This is common. This happens. This is just the gutter. It happens. There's ways to, minimize it, but there's always going to be issues in the gutter, no matter what, just because every machine prints a little bit differently. So if there's going to be an error in something, it's probably going to be in the gutter. And so you just have to know that. But the problem was that some of these swirls here were like bigger, maybe drawn differently than the other side. And this was her first time doing an illustration. It was a really cool, unique thing. She's not trained. So I was just really, excited about the way it was coming out. But, I put them together, and I was like, do you see what's happening here? And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even notice. And so we had to, she redid a couple of these after I was just kind of like, so here's what I'm seeing. Here's what we need, a little bit different. And we can't, they were like, ink on paper. She can't redo it. You can't like fix it. You have to just go ahead and redo it. But I think, she really did, if you take a look, we were able to really pull out some neat features, but it took a little bit of time. I would say this probably took 6 months to 8 months, just because she wasn't working on it full time. She wasn't, totally, it wasn't 100%. And then, when we did, let's see, the Dante Elefante book, this book took, Ashlyn was in school. She did the first draft of this in like a weekend.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah, I mean, this was not all of these illustrations, but then, once we had the draft, she did this. It took her maybe about 4 weeks to do it, because she was just like super into it. And, it was just kind of how she ended. So it really depends. There's no right or wrong answer to this. I usually give, when I sign a contract with an author, or an author illustrator team, I normally put the window at 12 to 18 months. That doesn't necessarily mean it takes that long, and people see that and they're like, but I want it out like by Christmas. It's like, well, that's on you. Like I usually need 8 weeks, between, just for drafts and edits and back and forth and all of that stuff. I need at least that. And then any pre-production stuff that we do, like reviews and, sending it out for, we send out art copies for readers, and whatnot. But, in order to get something that's like ready to roll, I need about 2 months just to kind of work it into the schedule. So if it takes you 2 weeks, if it takes you 2 months, if it takes you 10 months, I mean, you just have, I would say just to be upfront about it, and just to be like, so this is probably going to be like a big ask, and I'm not going to be able to get this done until after the summer. Okay. There's no right or wrong.
Cool. Thank you for answering that.
Sure.
So I have 2 questions. One is shorter, so I'll ask that one first. Since they're not self-published books, do they come with like ISBN numbers?
Yes.
These books?
Yes.
They do? Okay.
There's at least 2 ISBN numbers that come along with it. So there's at least one. So like, for example, like the ISBN, so you have it right there on the back, right?
Yep.
And then on the, and then on the, we also have the, all of that information, which is all there too. And you can see like the ISBN, right? On each one, the ISBN for each version of the book is different. So the paperback version gets one, a hardcover gets a different one, and sometimes an ebook will or will not have one. It just really it depends. Usually these days we are assigning ISBNs for the ebooks, but you don't need to do that necessarily. But we do have unique ISBNs. We provide them. We do all of that back work. That's like part of what we do. And then getting that all kind of out there.
Okay, cool. And then my other question. So are you looking for illustrators currently?
I'm always looking for illustrators. I have like a bajillion. I mean, I would love to publish like tons and tons and tons. I mean, like, I think that good children's books, good illustrated books are like really important to continue to produce those things. I think is a really, it's really important to be able to do that, especially during times like these where kids just need like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of poorly written and poorly illustrated children's books out there that get like a ton of attention, and that like bothers me a lot. But I think that does it bother you too? It bothers me sometimes. And I have like extensive children's book libraries. I mean, I have 2 kids. I was a high school teacher for a number of years, and I actually, in my other job, I work with teachers, and I do professional development for teachers. So I mean, like, I'm with teachers all the time. We're reading books, we're looking at books, we're doing stuff with books, and sometimes I'm like, how did this get published? I'm like, oh my God. And it just is what it is. But there's a couple of books that I'm looking for illustrators for. There's a couple of books I have in process right now, and I'm sure that there's more that off the top of my head I'm not going to think of. But there's one book that is that I am actively looking for, which is a book about like for kids who are like when kids want to help somebody. Sometimes like if something really bad happens like this book I've been waiting for like a while for an illustrator for this, but sometimes when something really bad happens, kids like just don't know what to do.
Intervention.
What?
Bystander intervention.
Yeah, sometimes like that. Or like, so what do you do when someone gets sick? Well, maybe you can bring them some food. You can send them some flowers. You can write them a letter. What if one of your friends, if their feelings get hurt? Sometimes you just have to listen. Sometimes. So I'm looking for an illustrator for that, but I have a really specific idea about what I'm looking for in those illustrations, because I do want it to be like children like doing those things, like putting an envelope in the mailbox, but because I really want to make sure that we're being culturally responsive and making sure that we're not, that sometimes it's just a lot there. So I was thinking I just want to get rid of that whole idea, and I want to make them animal kids. So like Panda Bear, or something like that. Like, so that's kind of what I'm looking for at this point.
So first of all, that excites me very much because animal people is like my thing. But
yes,
also,
yes, animals in like humanoid positions and doing things, and like like a grandma sheep in bed, and like the little kid bringing her some soup, and like that kind of stuff. So that's, and I'm happy to have definitely have conversations about that and get some sketches or some ideas and see. And,
what is your email? I don't know if it was posted anywhere.
Oh,
Would I be able to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in here, so that you guys can all have it. Honestly, I'm always looking for ideas, and sometimes I write a lot, but I don't always have like a fully fleshed out idea, or sometimes like just, you have writer's block. You're like, I don't even know what my next, what I'm going to do. But sometimes just like seeing illustrations or getting like I have an idea for a book about this, but I don't really have a story. Then sometimes we can just talk it out and make it happen, write it and do it. You don't always have to write your own book, or if you do have an idea of what you want to, what the book is that you want to publish, but you don't really have the story written out, then we can help you with that too. And, and make you still the author and illustrator, of it. And, so it doesn't need to necessarily even be that I'm looking for something. It could be like, here's my idea. I don't really know what this story is, but we can work together on that. My 10-year-old is standing here like, I can help with that.
Sometimes kids are the best writers.
Yeah, we actually, one of the books we have coming out soon is a book that she wrote, which is about autism, and it's called The New Student, and she wanted me to talk about it. But I don't have it here yet because it's still in process, and I don't even have it on this computer. Sorry. I know, I'm sorry. I know.
Next time.
Yeah. But that's really good. And I will tell you that, because I was also, she was really excited to get this done. And I was like, well, we just need to make this happen. I used the same illustrator. I used Diana, who did the Lost Sunglasses book for this book, as well. So, just different illustrations a little bit. I asked her for a different style. And she did it digitally instead. And, it's perfect. It's really great. So it's exactly what she imagined. Is it exactly what you imagined? Yeah, exactly what she imagined.
Awesome.
So, yeah. But yes, come at me with questions. I'm happy for questions.
One more? So sorry.
That's great.
So for your subject matter for your books, like, do you have like a certain, I guess, genre that you don't want to do? Like,
yes,
like
genre,
religion, stuff like that?
No, I'm totally open to religion. I'm actually trying to convince my friend to write. She's a Michelle Nolt. She's a children's. She runs like the children's youth ministry at her church, and I'm trying to get her to do a children's like Bible journal. So that she can, because she has her kids kind of, figuring out what different Bible verses mean anyway, all the time. And so I think it'd be really great for her to have, what's the Bible verse, and then what's like, how does her 6-year-old like interpret this? How does her 10-year-old interpret it? And like and then space for like the kid, whoever's reading it, to like, actually write in it and write their interpretation. And so for that, we're probably going to look at like just some like whimsical, different designs and more of like a doodly look for it. But I haven't really wrapped my brain around that, and she hasn't agreed to it yet. There's oftentimes people where I'm like, you should really write this book. And she's like, well, how much is it going to cost me to publish it? And I'm like, no, that's not how we roll here. That's self-publishing. And I don't do that thing. If I'm asking you to write a book, it's because I'm asking you to write the book. I will pay you to write the book. So there's a lot of people who think like it costs money. This is like where a lot of times that self-publishing versus traditional publishing, people don't really know the difference. So I have to do a lot of educating and be like, no, you don't pay me. I pay you. Like every time a book sells, you get like, money. And she's like, oh. So, that's definitely something that I'm open to. So religion is definitely not something that I would shy against. I would say anything that would be like obscene, more politically driven kinds of things. I'm not opposed to it, honestly. Like the political satire, I actually have a political satire children's book that has been written that I published. Also, it's called Peaches the Wall. It's very interesting. So, so I'm not totally opposed, but I would say, like obscenity would be something I wouldn't necessarily, like, I do have a romance novel, but it is not, it's not racy at all. And if we were going to go in any direction like that, it probably wouldn't be in the children's book arena. So
yeah, no, I wasn't in that one.
No, but that's pretty much it. And we just use our best judgment. So we don't try to censor too much of anything.
Well, I'm definitely going to send you a very long email. So I
Send
apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. The one thing though, it is taking me a little while to kind of get like through everything. These days things are just taking me like 3 times as long. So if I don't get back to you like immediately, and you don't hear from me in like 2 or 3 days, just be like, hey, remember, I sent you an email. And don't feel bad, because
That's
that
totally fine.
would be like helpful. That's more helpful for me than anything else, especially these days when I'm here with like little people and doing work. You're littler than me.
Yeah, well, I'm 10.
There she is. See, I'm talking to somebody off camera, so they have to see who the person is. So yeah, for context, I'm not talking to myself. Anyway, yes. What other questions do you have?
I have a question. Okay. Have you ever had somebody come to you with like a finished story and like illustrations already made? Like,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Most of the time that's what happens. Where they're like, hey, I have the story, here's the illustrations. What do you think? And then I'll be like, yeah, that looks great. Or, maybe let's like rewrite a little bit, or let's consider, or whatever. It really depends. I get things in all different varying stages. Sometimes I just get like sketches. Sometimes they're like, so I think that this book will have like illustrations that are done in watercolor. And you're like, okay. Then I have to find an illustrator for them or help them out. But oftentimes we will get books that are written and illustrated. Like, for example, these books, the Mr. Business books, we already had the first one, real close to being done when I got it. So that's mostly the way it goes.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
How involved are you with the printing process?
Not not very. I would say since it's done print on demand, usually what we end up doing is we'll print 1 or 2 copies of a book to kind of see the print quality, to see the print variation. The paperbacks sometimes will come out like a little different, or and then I have to go back and tweak and do something with on my end with just the way that it's showing up in the document, in the PDF, sometimes just coding it differently, or selecting the output, but we don't really we don't use any local printers, since it's all print on demand. That basically means that it's on Amazon, and when somebody purchases it, Amazon chooses the printer. And it could be, they're usually the ones I can check and see. Usually the ones that I'm getting these days are in, Middletown, Delaware. I've never been to that printing place. I don't even know where it is. I mean, I know where Middletown, Delaware is, but I don't know where this printer is. So I only get involved if there's issues. Yep, Middletown again. So I think there's probably some other printers, but since that one is kind of closest, Middletown, Delaware. I don't know. It just seems to be that's I should go visit. I feel like maybe I should go visit now. Middletown, Delaware. I don't know. So there are some local companies that do printing, but I have found them to be much more expensive and not really any better quality. I can show you my website quickly. If you would like to, just so that you can see how that looks. Let's see. And I have not actually been on it in a little while, so no promises. So there we go. So that's the website. And let's see. So let's take a look at our books quickly. And I have these great, see how my internet is so slow. I have to call and upgrade it because we have like way more devices on right now than we normally would. We normally have just like a few people home. Look at that, 14%. It's taking a while. Here, let's go to this about us instead. Come on. There we go. So you can see there's like some information here about like how we started. information for authors about our company, so you can kind of see distribution, marketing, and public. This is the same for illustrators too. Royalties, if somebody has an agent. I haven't ever actually worked with somebody with an agent, but I'm open to it because that's fine. And then we have our book proposal page, which is really more designed for authors. So that's definitely something just that I need to kind of think about. And it just has like, you know, the stuff that you can put in that has like your name, kind of your contact info, like what is your book about, basically. If there's chapter summaries, who's your target audience. So if it's like children, then that's like children. If it's you know, children who like dogs, name Bark, whatever that dog's name is, right? Who, right?
Yeah.
Who would be any competing titles. This is where you'd put in like format and timeline, like it's totally done. Or I need like 2 months to finish the illustrations, or it's ready to roll, or whatever. References, I do ask for references from authors, just so that they can kind of like, I can just see if they have them. And then upload a file so that they can kind of like share with me whatever they want. Sometimes I get some really weird things that people want to like share with me. I don't always know what I'm getting when I open things up. And I've gotten a number of books that people, you know, want to, you know, share with me, but they want me to publish, but they just like, you know, maybe aren't exactly what I'm ready to publish right now, or, you know, it's not something that I'm really into. Maybe the writing just isn't great, you know, often for like a longer book. But I will, you know, always come back with feedback for people as well. And, you know, that there is a selection process for all of it, because otherwise I would just be inundated. And, you know, you have to be able to make decisions and kind of hold up, you know, for quality and for certain standards and whatnot. All of my children's books, I have a really, really vigorous committee that looks over the books. They consist of my 10-year-old and my 7-year-old, as well as some early childhood teachers, some kindergarten teachers, and whatnot, first grade, you know, just like elementary school teachers as well. And then I really go with my gut often. So if I see something and I'm like, we need to publish this book immediately, or if I'm like, I don't even know what I'm like looking at right now, then, you know, that really says a lot. And, you know, it's really, I can be more selective just because I can be. So, so I choose to be, but, you know, otherwise, you know, then without that, I would just, you know, be in over my head also, without enough support of like, you know, other people to kind of pick up some of the work too. So I have to make choices, but I think I make good ones most of the time. So.
I actually have another question.
Mhm.
I saw you said something about like agents and whatnot. So I am signed with an agency, but it's like a very open contract, so I don't have to like okay, her name's Gwen, so I wouldn't have to like give your information to Gwen or something. Is that an issue? Like, or if I'm with an
No,
agency, prefer?
no, yeah, you would just want to make,
Okay.
you would just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. That,
Okay.
you know, if you have a contract with them, we want to take a look at the contract and make sure everything's good. Oh, here, this page. So this is my author page. Can you guys see this still? So about the author, or just like my list of authors. This is the business guy. Yona just wrote a book called Mushu Worries. This is Salam, the Mr. Business books. He's the workhorse behind all of that. And this is Diana, my other illustrator, who lives in Romania. So you can kind of see there's a number of people who are listed here. And then and here's Ashlyn. So we'll use Ashlyn as our example. And when you click on her, author and illustrator, then you can take a look at her book. This is the Dante Elefante book. And, you know, you can kind of see this when you click on buy this book. It takes you where you can click and see it on Amazon. So here it is, where you can take a look at it on Amazon as well. Because this is one of the bilingual books, it doesn't, I don't believe it has a hardcover format at this time. No, just paperback. We're probably going to get it into the hardcover format, but because of just, you know, just the way that we're going through these typically just have paperback. And then, you know, just like every other book, you know, on Amazon, you can go through and you can see the illustrations, or, you know, you can get into like some of the look in on the book. And all of the books have that capability as well. Let me see, I can't get out of here real fast. There we go. So, you know, that's one thing too. You can also take a look, you know, there it is on Barnes and Noble also. So it's kind of the same kind of a deal. And that's just one of these. But, you know, generally speaking, when we work with authors, you know, we really try to work in partnership, and illustrators, we really try to work in partnership, just to make sure that everybody is getting kind of what they're hoping for, you know, the way that the book looks, or, you know, if we print it and we send it to you and you're like, these colors are like all messed up, then we all work together to kind of make it happen. If you have your book written and, you know, I'm like, this is great, but there's like a couple of things here that you know, we have some suggestions, then, you know, that's kind of a process that we work through as well.
What drove you to start OWL Publishing? Like, I know you said you have kids and that you really want like good books out there, but really, what really, like, you know, made you want to take that jump?
So as I think I said earlier, I had a book that I wanted to publish, and the book was actually, it's an academic text. So my full-time job, I work for the University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education, and I teach courses for teachers and administrators. And my grandfather was a professor at Penn. He was the head of the reading, writing, literacy department for many years, and he had written a book a number of years ago that really needed to be updated. And the book was only available like if you called him, and then he called the copy shop down the street and was like, can I get a copy of this book? And then he'd like mail it to whoever wanted it. So it was like quite a thing. And it talked about like the internet and things like that. When we wrote, you be careful with that's sharp. When we were writing that book, you know, we were doing that with the understanding that it really needed to be, you know, like a book, like a real book, like available on Amazon, and, you know, with updated kind of information. And so I started the company with the idea that we were going to publish that book. So, and he actually passed away in July of 2015. And I started the company in October of 2015. And then the book came out in July of 2016. So he didn't actually get to see the book coming out. But he really he wrote so much through his life, and he has, you know, a number of these ideas and these things that really just are great, and I wanted to you know, find a vehicle for that. And the you know, some people would be like, oh, just like, I'm going to partner with a publishing company, and I was very close to publishing through Teachers College Press, and then they had a bunch of changes that they wanted to make, and I would have had to sign away my copyright to them, which is like a no. We do not do that. We do not ask anybody to ever do that. You do not do that. It's in your name. It's always in your name. It does not get copyright to anybody else. Anyway, so I was like, what the heck? Like, no, of course I'm not going to do that. And I was talking to a friend of mine who published a book, and he's like, you know, so you can like self-publish, you can find another company, or you could just start a publishing company. And I was like, tell me more about that third option, because you just like, something just like makes a lot of sense here. And, you know, I ended up kind of thinking about it, looking into it, and being like, yep, this is it. This is the way to go. And it has like just blossomed into this whole thing. So I started really thinking about myself and what I wanted to do. And I ended up really finding a way to give other people a voice, and finding a way to support and like, rise up other aspiring authors and illustrators and educators and whatnot. And it has been, completely awesome. And I'm really glad that I went this direction. But that this was like that, you could just like start a publishing company. And I was like, yes, I do want to do. Just so weird. But how many people are like, I mean, in my spare time, I'm gonna just like start a publishing company. And I did, and it's super fun.
And you also said that if we had a portfolio, we can always email it to you to
Please.
to
Yep.
showcase.
Yes. The ones that I have that were added here, I have copied them down for sure. But if you have something that even if you're like, hey, I added something, like this might be really a cool, idea for a children's book, or I might take a look at something and be like, do you have a book about this? I would think I want to write something. Like, let's like, I'm going to connect you to like Kelly, like we're going to have Kelly write this book quick, and just like make it happen. So, just sometimes taking a look at things will like, get the creative juices flowing and get some ideas. And, it might be some doodles that you've done and we're like, this is a thing, like, let's do this. So you never know. So if there's something in particular that you want me to take a look at, show me. If there's, something that you are, not sure about, or that you want to, get some feedback on, I mean, I'm happy to do that as well. I'm not an artist myself. I mean, I do art, but I'm not trained in any way whatsoever. Everybody's an artist, but I'm not like a trained artist, but I muddle. So, I give the feedback just in terms of, what I see on my own, but, happy to have a conversation, in a little bit more depth. And yes, everybody can please, feel free to send me an email or put a link to your portfolio in here. And then we can chat. And thanks so much, Jessica, for setting this up. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to meet some aspiring illustrators and artists.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to come and present. We're always really happy to hear from others.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay. Well, have a great rest of your day.